This new 50 Cent documentary is foul. But before I get into that, let me show you something. On the 29th of August 2011, the LAPD pulled over this Back to the Future DeLorean near Hollywood Boulevard. The reason for it being pulled over was because it was driving erratically, so they wanted the driver to perform a sobriety test. When the door opened, out stepped a 6-foot model-looking woman wearing a short gold dress and high heels. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice another woman in a red dress laughing to the right side of the screen. That's Claudia Jordan from Real Housewives of Atlanta, the passenger in the car at the time. And clearly nobody's taking any of this seriously. The cops are laughing, as were the women, even when the driver was eventually arrested and booked for a DUI. It's kind of hard to make out exactly who she is in this clip. But if you go watch Neo's Miss Independent music video, there's a scene when he walks into an office and is greeted by this lady. That's the same woman who was arrested in the DeLorean. Immediately after she greets Neo, he walks past another 2 women who also say hello. Then play that again. You might see a face you recognize. This woman here, she look familiar? It's 50 Cent's babe mother, Daphne Joy. Now you're probably thinking, okay, cool. What does any of this have to do with the Diddy situation? I'm getting to that. But first, let me show you this last photograph. That's a fresh-faced 18-year-old Cassie, who just arrived in New York. Standing next to her is a slightly older lady. Probably can't recognize her with the shades on, but the same woman who was arrested driving the DeLorean. She's also the same woman many newspapers described as the Ghislaine Maxwell of hip-hop. This trail's deeper than Diddy, and 50 Cent knows it. But I'll come back to this mysterious woman.
Well, look how we starting the Friday off. Good morning, good morning. Neil, what's up with that?
Well, first off, welcome everybody and come on in to Let It Be Known, the place where we bring you the headlines that are inspiring and uplifting the Black community. And I guess the conversation about 50 Cent, Diddy, and this documentary entitled Sean Combs: The Reckoning is still having a lot of chatter on the streets. Lots of conversation. Diddy allegedly has just sent 50 Cent some flowers. Yeah, 50 Cent is claiming that Diddy had flowers sent to him at his club appearance in Miami. And you know, and everybody's reminiscent of the Biggie song. There's gonna be a lot of flowers being in it, plus some if my burglar starts ringing. So, you know, Diddy, he's hearing about the documentary allegedly, and he had a message for 50.
He sent them flowers?
He sent them flowers
from prison. That's some serious bouquet right there. He sent it.
Well, I mean, if you look at the documentary, that's something that a gangster would do.
Wow. Well, and it's so interesting because Greer mentioned yesterday, I thought, some great points about Diddy's dad, right? Being, that dude, and Diddy aspiring to live up to his father's, I guess, just live up to what his father was doing.
Yeah, I mean, and if you watch the documentary, it's something that he evolved into, because that wasn't his, MO when he first started. He wanted to be a backup dancer. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke. I mean, he just wanted to throw parties and things. And then he kind of evolved into, if this documentary is 100% true, into this gangster mobster monster that he turned out to be.
So here's the interesting, I was just thinking as I just saw Shonda H write this. She says 50 Cent knew that this, and still, she says, procreated with Daphne Joy, can't make this stuff up. So, right. So the way that little clip we just watched is, it seems like there's a whole lot to this story, and maybe it's somewhere in there is why 50 Cent is so diabolically uh going after Diddy.
Well,
There's
I mean,
something there.
but I mean, if you know and you've been around, I mean, there's a group of girls that they all toss around. That's nothing surprising
Yeah,
that,
but
you know
what's
what I'm
with
saying? All
right?
the
Okay.
they're main girls, like the video vixens. You
Hmm.
know that Sterin, what's her name?
Yeah, yeah,
Sterin
Superhead.
Steffens. I mean,
Hmm.
she was a favorite among hip hop artists, and they
Hmm.
didn't care
Bill
that
Maher
she had
too.
slept. Right? They didn't care that she had slept with him, and him. They all so certain girls just were that it factor, and so that's not surprising to me about sleeping with.
Well, I think Corinne Stephens highlighted the ignorance of hip hop, of guys in hip hop. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like they were smitten because of a nickname. That was the real catch with her. I mean, she's a
Well,
nice
I
looking
mean,
lady. Don't get
from
me
what it
wrong.
sounded like, she lived up to that name.
Exactly, exactly. Bill Maher didn't want to let her go. Of all people. And she actually, well, she lived with Bobby Brown for a little while, but I think Bobby was like in his feelings. He was like, he needed help at the
And
time.
with Diddy, it was like that. He did the same thing with Albie Shore.
Mhm.
Kim Porter was Albie Shore's girl. And so that wasn't the first, Daphne wasn't the first woman that
Right.
Diddy, did that
Hmm.
to. So he had a pattern of, taking other, especially his enemies or people that he felt like he was in competition to. One of the
Yeah.
things was the woman,
Hmm.
so
So Albie Shore is one that he's been, taking the shots at Diddy, of course, the last year or so. But he's one you understand the beef, right? You kind of understand the beef. 50 Cent, I guess you got to dig to really and see it. Look beyond the surface with 50 Cent.
yeah. Diddy, it's so much
It's
to
yeah.
unpack with that. Another conversation that's happening within the Black men community and cycle that I'm hearing is, even though all of this could be true, they don't like the way 50 is dragging another Black man. Like, even
Mhm.
if that is the case, that's not your place to do that.
Yeah, that I've heard that a lot too. So ask the chat. Is that is that the case? Is that true? Is that how the majority feel? Is that how they should feel? That's a good, it's a good point.
Yeah, because I had a problem. I have a problem with the way 50 is so involved in another grown man's life. But
Right.
that documentary, it's just well produced. I
Hmm.
mean, and it lays out like the entire timeline of his career. And it
Hmm.
also gives Diddy his flowers, but it also paints the man, that was a long myth and legend and brought out things that you knew that you didn't know. So it's just a well produced documentary. But at the
Yeah.
same time, 50 continues to like I said, it's like the 50 the what is it, the 48 laws of power
Yeah.
crush
Yeah.
me. I mean, he is literally crushing Diddy. And is that okay for a Black man to bring another Black man down? They're saying, karma's a bitch.
Hmm.
50's not squeaky clean. He allegedly abused his baby mama. He got skeletons in his closet. So,
Right.
mm,
Right. You know, that's the thing too. Everybody at that level especially has some sort of skeleton. So it's like, what is 50 doing? Does he believe that he doesn't have anything? Is there some does he believe that he doesn't have anything that people would find intriguing with that could hurt him?
I guess not. I mean, you know,
Because he is straight up just this has been a long running thing, and And true, the documentary. So his name, I mean, he did some work on the documentary, but it's what I think what we all miss because 50 Cent has been so vocal all year long and beyond. This is not just a 50 Cent production,
Well,
right?
I mean,
So
it's his production. He is the one that brought all of these people together.
okay,
I mean, it's his baby. You know, he put, you know, people are a part of it, but that's his baby. And what's happening now is you're seeing a lot of people that used to work for Diddy, you know, confirm who he was. I know yesterday, even 50 Cent posted it, and I seen it go viral. His ex bodyguard, who
yeah,
used to be incarcerated, and he was talking about how Diddy had a pattern of hiring young videographers and like people from who are incarcerated because he knew that he could get them for the penny. And he wanted these people around him for 24 hours a day, 24/7. But then when he would get so they're like, okay, but then when they would submit the invoice for 120 hours, he would be like, well, what is this? And they was like,
yeah.
well, do you really think I'm really hanging out with you just because you did? No, I want my money. And so he had a pattern of doing these types of things, which I could see it, which is why
Well, a lot of them do.
that
Yeah,
video footage got out because he didn't
yeah.
pay the person.
There, so that's another thing that's not just a Diddy thing. I believe that 100% that he did that, but it's not just a Diddy thing.
Mhm.
Many of these celebrities feel like, okay, I mean, you get to hang out with me. That's your pay. It's like, no, it don't work that way. It don't work like that. If I'm
Yeah.
doing some work, I need a check
Right. And I need to check for every hour. You know, if
every
I work
hour.
120 hours, I don't want 60. I want my 120. I don't care
Exactly.
if we're on a yacht in Sandro Pay.
Exactly.
I don't care if we fly from the private jet to Sandro Pay and I'm eating lobster on the plane. I still want to get paid for being on the plane and filming you eat your lobster too. And they was like they would send the invoice and Diddy would be like, what is this? You know, and then you know, you call the chief of staff, you call this person, and they just give you the runaround. They was like,
Wow.
that was one of Diddy's MOs.
So I guess you can't tell us whose yacht you was on eating the lobster and all that, and you had to like
I
make sure
didn't
you
say
grab him
that. I said
you had to grab him by the neck to get your pay.
that. That's what oh boy, the ex bodyguard was saying. He was like, he said, there's so many layers to this situation, y'all have no idea.
Yeah, Mike V makes a good point. He said Diddy wrote that check to Sting for every step I take. Sample Sting wasn't playing games about that bread. That is another thing that needs to be confronted. They will write that check to the white man. I hate to say it like that, to the white artist in a heartbeat. Mace, Shine, and all of them will tell you that they had to sue for years Diddy to get their money.
Right.
Yeah, I just saying. I'm just saying. It's I'm just saying. It's Happy
Yeah.
Swag Hoodie Day, by the way. RNG is rocking Jackson State. Is he rocking Jackson? Oh, the defending swag. Yep, Jackson State. The defending swag and HBCU football champion. So there you go.
Yeah. Aquarius says on the side note, did anyone see Cat Williams on Michelle Obama's podcast? I did see clips of it. Cat Williams is not embraced right now by the comedy world or by, you know, comedians. Because there was a murder of a comedian that was on tour with him. And what happened to him is still unclear. And a lot of people believe that Cat Williams has something to do with it.
Oh my.
Cat Williams went missing after comedian Reggie Carroll's murder happened in one of his properties.
This is recent.
And a lot of people believed that Reggie and Cat got into an altercation. Cat got beat up really bad. He disappeared after Reggie's death for a while. He just resurfaced.
So we're talking recent stuff.
Yeah, this just happened like a few months ago, and Cat
Oh
went
wow.
missing, MIA. And he hasn't said anything. And Reggie Carroll was a comedian that not only was a bodyguard for Cat Williams, but he also opened up for him. And he just
Wow.
when Reggie was murdered, he just went MIA.
Wow.
Yeah.
I-
So there's a lot of side eyes at Cat Williams right now. And the person, his other bodyguard was arrested for the murder of Reggie Carroll, but is very suspect.
Right.
And he was shot. Reggie was shot with a double-barreled shotgun. And there's
Nice.
video footage of, so it's real murky. It's real questionable. For somebody to be so close to Cat Williams. Cat Williams didn't show up for the funeral. He hasn't said a word about the murder of Reggie Carroll, and it's just real odd because when he was on his lowest and at his lowest, Reggie was there for him. Remember when Cat was on the side of the building being beat up by all that stuff? I mean, Reggie was there for him, and for him just not to do it's just very a strange and peculiar thing. So when you bring that up, it's kind of you're looking at it, but I'm also when I saw it, I'm also thinking like Diddy, like people just really don't know, you
I
know,
did not know this. Wow.
who they're talking to.
Wow.
That's what
That
I
is,
saw when I saw the Michelle Obama thing. Like she don't
yeah.
know who is she talking to.
Wow. Wow. Well, folks, on a serious note, well, that is serious. On getting out of the entertainment for a second, I should say. For the first time this century, the number of children dying before their fifth birthday is rising. The Gates Foundation's 2025 Goalkeepers Report states that 4.6 million children died before age 5 last year, and project, I should say, that the total will reach 4.8 million this year, which would reverse decades of progress in child survival. We know that much of this has to do with the cruel Trump administration cutting the USAID program. Before the cuts, USAID funded programs prevented nearly 92 million deaths from 2001 through 2021 across 133 countries. So we're seeing this horrible, horrible trend of preventable child deaths just failing now.
Yeah, the Trump administration is cruel, and a lot of the decisions that they're making, they're not looking at the projected outcome to the
Oh, they
decisions
don't care
they
about
make
it.
today. Yeah, but they're not they don't care, but they're also ignorant, right?
Mhm.
There's the ignorance factor to this because
Yeah.
decisions that they make are knee jerk. They're right now decisions. And traditionally, when you have a competent cabinet and people around you, they're not just thinking about the moment. They're looking at projections, they're looking at data. They don't look at anything. They're just
Yeah.
and and I think it's like they don't for 100% they don't care, but I think that there's an also huge factor of ignorance.
Oh yeah, without question. We know that this is without question the most incompetent cabinet, the most incompetent administration ever.
So and like
Bottom
we were
line.
talking about cocktails early, or that's a lethal cocktail
That is a lethal
of no concern and ignorance,
yeah.
shaken and stirred.
Yep. Patricia Jackson said they don't care, but this is why younger people aren't having children.
Hmm.
Wow.
Those numbers are up as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Also in the news, uh, former Minnesota police officer Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of second-degree unintentional murder for the 2020 death of George Floyd, is now seeking a new trial. He's arguing that multiple errors and misconduct during the proceedings violated his constitutional rights to due process. His latest filing is asking that the court not only for a retrial, but also for an evidentiary hearing to examine what he claims were serious problems with jury instructions and the handling of forensic testimony that was central to his case. So here's the thing. He's arguing this as far as in state court. And why is that important when he's serving a federal sentence? Well, put it together. It's like ABC 1, 2, 3, right? If he can get off somehow from these state charges, he knows that Donald Trump will pardon him on the federal charges. There's
The
no question.
reality is with this, we saw the video.
Mhm.
So whatever you're putting on the table, we saw the video. And I don't think that you can get around with that. Even if you were to get a second trial, the video speaks for itself. We heard the people telling you to stop, to get off of him. We saw how intentional you were about and the lack of concern that you have for a Black man. We saw it with our own eyes. We watched the full 9 minutes. And so do what you want, bro. We saw the video.
You're 100% right. Who can argue? Earlier this week, we were discussing some of the great comedians. We were just discussing some comedians, right? And this week, Janice McCullough, Bernie Mac's daughter, gave a heart-wrenching account on the Dead Talks podcast of what it was like to watch her father, one of the greatest comedians ever, to slip away. She described his long fight with sarcoidosis and how sophisticated drugs meant to help him triggered toxic reactions that kept him hospitalized in 2008. She said her father was on a ventilator, heavily sedated, and then suddenly opened his eyes that Thursday before he died. When her mother asked if he knew her, he rolled his eyes like the old Bernie Mac, she said, and Janice thought, hey, he might just pull through this. But when they were alone, she said Bernie motioned to her, told her to come close, and mouthed the words, I'm dead, and then nodded as she told him. Well, a couple of days later, Bernie was indeed dead. She talked about how that almost drove her to suicide, and what prevented her from taking her own life, she said, was she could not do that to her mother, who had just lost her husband. And she got therapy, and she said the therapist finally gave her permission. Having the therapy, I should say, finally gave her permission to grieve. It's a sad story. And she tells it, you know, she kind of mocks her father a little bit. When I say mock, imitate her father a little bit in the voice. I shouldn't say mock. It's as heart-wrenching as it is. It was such a beautiful thing to see her express herself, though, and tell that story.
Yeah, I mean, grief hits in many forms. You know, it's depression. So I mean, I think that, you know, anybody that has lost someone that is significantly close to them, a family member, a friend, a partner, you go through different phases of grief. You know, it's some people who have lost loved ones 10 years ago, and it still feels like yesterday. And so I think that, you know, hearing these types of stories allows people to say, I went through that same thing, or I'm going through that same thing, but also to see that you can also get through it, and it eventually it will get better. So it's great that she was able to share her story, and maybe help somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Neo, Shanae and I watch a lot. Well, I watch, and she always says, she gets on me sometimes because she says it's the same thing over and over again, like Dateline NBC or 48 Hours and stuff like that, where the wife is always being killed by the husband. It's always a story about a wife, and it's not always, but she says it's always. Why you always watch? But nonetheless, I say that to say this: Charlemagne gave the donkey of the day to a Florida man who shot his pregnant girlfriend's co-worker after suspecting cheating. It was an interesting monologue, if you will, that Charlemagne gave on this, what drives people to kill in these situations. But he breaks it down to that individual who committed the murder. Like, this guy goes over to the woman's house, his girlfriend's house. She's braiding the hair. She told him she would be busy that evening. And so he goes over anyway. And
this is the ex-boyfriend or the boyfriend?
This is the boyfriend.
Okay.
And he finds her in the house. She told him, all right, if you want to come in, come in. but I told you I was going to be busy. And so he sees the man sitting in the chair. She was braiding his hair.
Mhm.
And so the boyfriend shoots him to death. And, Charlemagne is like, here's why it's a donkey of the day. You thought about this. You got mad. She told you she was busy. You got mad. You assumed that she was doing something wrong. You had all this time to consider your actions. This is your girlfriend. It's not even your wife. And you go and you commit this crime. The guy sitting there, and he said, Charlemagne said, based on the news reports, that the guy was like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" Blah blah. It was like very cordial. Like it was pretty obvious that there was nothing going on between the two. That she was simply braiding his hair, and the guy was stunned, according to news reports that Charlemagne talked about, that he escalated he just came in and just blasted him. And so now he's like he said, you're going to be, if first of all, if you thought she was cheating, you should have moved on, is what Charlemagne said, right? Move on. He said, well, guess what? You spending the rest of your life in prison. She's moving on now for sure.
Mhm.
It's like people do this stuff and they don't think.
Oh,
What
yeah.
have you proven?
Yeah, I mean, you if you went to local police departments, that happens all the time, unfortunately. I know here in California, I have a cousin that just got hired by the Genesis Center, which is an organization out here. You're familiar with it, that helps women that are victims to domestic abuse. Well, they've done a partnership with the LAPD to where they have agents. And this is what we talk about when we talk about reimagining public safety. They are partnering with the Genesis Center. The Genesis Center provides, I guess, mediators. So the mediator goes with the police officer on domestic violence calls. So instead of the first person that you have addressing the situation, is not a police officer, but it is a mediator to kind of talk to the victim. And the police officer steps back, but there's that mediator. And so I'm saying all that to say it's like this happens all the time. And public safety is trying to figure out how to de-escalate some of these types of situations without always having to go in with force first.
Yeah. And in this case, the one that Charlemagne was talking about, and Greer reminds me that the girl she's pregnant. She was pregnant with this man's child at the time. And so what happens now? Like like Charlemagne said, she's moving on. That's for sure. And here he is right here.
Yeah.
Wow. And RNG says that's why I don't go to anyone's house unless I am armed and I don't trust people. A man pulled a gun on his barber over a haircut. Right.
I saw that too. Yeah. And he had just got out of prison. And so that's sometimes, when people get reintegrated into society, they might need some training on how to deal with their emotions and de-escalate situations, because that was crazy. And there were two little boys in that barbershop, and they're just like, that's traumatizing. So I don't think people realize when these types of situations happen, like even a situation you were just talking to, it's not just the person that dies and it's not just the person that does the shooting, but it's the girlfriend and the child in the belly. It's both of their mothers and their families. Everybody is impacted by that, because the village has to be either the one to put money on the boy's books when he's in prison, has to, accept those collect calls when he calls. You know what I'm saying? The girlfriend has to raise the child by herself. And then the victim, his family, has to deal with that. So it's not just an isolated incident. It impacts the entire ecosystem of all three of those individuals. And I don't think people think of things like that when they do things.
No, and somebody said earlier that about letting the demons win. Sounds like she didn't think about it, but let her demons win. I think Dr. Marilyn was talking about the guy that he let the demons win. Yeah, listen, it is too serious. If folks are, folks have a quicker temper. I find. What do you think, Neil? I find today, as opposed to even 6, 7 years ago, before a pandemic, folks have a quicker temper today.
Oh, most definitely. It's like you better be careful who you honk at.
Right, right,
You
exactly.
better be careful who you get mad because they jumped in. You were next in line, but they got in front of you at the grocery store. You have to be careful of these things because you don't know what people's mental capacity is.
That is so true. Dr. Marilyn said here in Dallas this summer, a black therapist shot her ex-lover after married and had a restraining order. Shot him at work after a 2-hour conversation. So you talked for 2 hours and still shot the
And you
2 hours?
the therapist.
Right. Somebody needs to talk to therapists now. Wow.
Yeah, and the holidays don't make it any easier.
True.
Because you have to think about the financial strain this may put on people, especially in the economy we're in, or the holidays. Somebody in the chat put it in there. It brings about grief,
Mhm.
especially if you have lost loved ones, or maybe you were in a relationship and it's now you're by yourself for the holidays. So this is like it's a jolly holly happy time, but it's also a huge time when people are very depressed and financially strained. So like the term this year, and is grace. You have to give people grace. And I think that's a word that we all can think about during this holiday season. How if I get into it with somebody, maybe they're going through something that I don't know about, and I need to give this person grace.
Yeah, that going through something is everybody's going through something. So yeah. What else you got this morning, Neil?
Yeah, so we have a lot of headlines to go through. Donald Trump is cutting up, and these are some headlines that you might have missed. Yesterday, Trump's Supreme Court has revived the Texas congressional maps. Now, the majority of the Supreme Court said a lower court likely erred when invalidating the map as likely racial gerrymandering. Okay, that's what Trump's clans in the Supreme Court said. So they're saying it is not the high court's final word, but it enables Texas to move ahead in its March primary under the new map as the state continues to appeal. So
Yes.
the map is back in play, folks.
Oh my gosh, that Supreme Court is such a joke.
And it's like, when
You gotta laugh sometimes.
Yeah, but when I was finding this story, I was like, Trump's military, Trump's administration, Trump's Supreme Court, Trump's Congress. It's like, who would have thought that a president would not have any checks and balances, and every branch of government, every agency is basically now his to do his Department of Justice. It's not the U.S. Department of Justice, it's Trump's
Right.
Department of Justice.
This is the man who said they're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats.
And so, Texas is back in play. Thank God that California passed their 5 seats. We know that North Carolina is in trouble. We know that Indiana is still trying to figure it out. We'll see what Maryland does. And so, we'll see what happens. But that was important to know that the Texas congressional maps that Republicans draw, they're back in pay for at least the March election. And then let's head over to California, where although we love Gavin Newsom for what he done for the redistricting, but Halle Berry is calling him out. Now, the Oscar winner is slammed Newsom for vetoing a bipartisan legislation to increase menopause related care and coverage within the state for the second year in a row. So Berry was quoted as saying, the way he's overlooked women, half of the population, she said, by devaluing us in midlife, he probably should not be our next president. That's what she said.
Yeah, and so there's an update to that. I tell you what, good-looking people get their way. They tend to get their way, and Halle Berry is no different because Gavin Newsom said that he is glad Halle Berry spoke out, and that piece of legislation is again working its way to him, and they did some tweaks, and he's going to sign it.
Bullshit. That he did the same thing. Bullshit. He did the same thing with reparations, y'all. He did the exact same thing with reparations. He's not, and to think of the bill is going to be not what it's supposed to be. He did the same thing with reparations 2 years in a row. And then the bill that he signed was not the bill that the community organizations and that the legislators the original intent of it. It's going to be a watered down bill. He's notorious for that.
So what we should be playing right now is Can't Trust It. Can't trust Gavin.
Yeah. He did the same thing with reparations, y'all.
Look at he was like, man, he's a Halle Berry. Wait a minute.
And the only reason why he did it is because she said he shouldn't be president, and he doesn't want the women to be pissed off. And so, yeah, he did the same thing with us with reparations. Don't trust him.
What happened? So it was at the same event when she went off on him like that, right? When she made her statements. And so he saw her and he was trying to mac to her. He was like, whatever you want, Halle. Whatever you want. It's all right.
Yeah.
You got
Don't
that
trust it. Same thing with reparations. And in some good news, heading back, and let's zip back across to the East Coast, a federal grand jury in Virginia has declined to re-indict New York Attorney General Letitia James. Trump's Justice Department could still attempt a third indictment, however. But for now, he's lost again when it comes to Letitia James.
Yeah, as well he should have. Just real quick, Shonda H says Halle Berry needs to be talking to healthcare providers and insurance companies. Right. If she can get that done.
Right. But and there probably some of them are co-authors, or supporters of the bill. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. It's not just legislatures, it's organizations. It could be insurance companies. It could be, a group of people. He did the same thing with reparations.
So what do you think it is? And I think this is when we talk about reparations, and I think this is the biggest thing that holds reparations up. Dr. Nicole says, I think signing a reparations bill would have been political suicide for him, especially for considering a presidential run. And
that's why he did it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
why he didn't sign it.
Exactly.
He pushed it off to see what he did was he signed the bill for another study. And that's what pissed Black people off here in California, because we had already spent time on a 2-year study, a very thorough and competent and organized between legislators, community organizers, and historians. Okay. They did a 2-year study in depth. He signed a bill not to provide reparations, but really just to enact a whole nother study. And it's for that point, because it will be, Nicole, suicide.
Yep.
In his mind.
Well, right. So the fear that we see that these people have with Trump, even before Trump, there's that fear of going the extra mile and going to, not, I won't say extra mile, but going to the right spot for disenfranchised people, for Black people, reparations. That is what scares so many politicians, including Black politicians. It scares them to death because they believe. See, they were under the belief. I believe they were under the belief up until 2016 that we don't want to rile up these folks from the mountains and from the trailer parks and this and that. And Trump did. And he got their support. And they was afraid of that. I think they were afraid of that. I don't know that Gavin Newsom and many other politicians oppose reparations. I think they're afraid of reparations.
Right. I mean, there's so many layers to it. But yeah, Governor Gavin Newsom, he's a tricky type individual. Yeah. He's a tricky type guy. He's a tricky type guy. But let's get back to the nutcracker Trump.
What?
Yeah, let's talk about that nutcracker. They have renamed the building that houses the U.S. Institute of Peace in downtown
Oh
D.C. to
Lord.
Donald J. Trump, y'all. Now, he has his name all over the building now. And what has often been called the Peace Building, a White House official has said the building would now be known as the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace.
Means there's gonna be a lot of chaos in that building. It's gonna be the opposite of peace in that building. It's like the Kennedy Center. You know, the Kennedy Center, they can't sell a ticket. They can't even give away tickets ever since he dismantled it and took over.
But
Man,
he's supposed to be having something there with World Cup leaders, and
yeah,
they've
well.
hired the village people to come sing YMCA. I think that happens next week. Okay. But speaking of peace, you know, he names this building a peace. But just yesterday, U.S.
Uh-oh.
military has blown up another alleged drug trafficking boat in the Eastern Pacific. That was just yesterday, okay? Killing 4 male alleged narco traffickers and continuing its lethal counter narcotics campaign. Now, the boat on Thursday was struck in international waters and was operated by a designated quote unquote terrorist organization. Now, this is according to the U.S. Southern Command. However, it is unclear what terrorist group the military was referring to.
Of course not.
So they're calling these people terrorists, and we know who the number one terrorist, okay, is.
Yeah, you made that clear.
It's theirs.
But you know, the thing is, here seriously, we know based on the findings that they've killed innocent civilians doing this. But we also know this, that these boats, these ships or whatever, are not in U.S. territory. They're in foreign waters and they're between other countries. It is not at all cool to be blowing. That has nothing to do with you. They're saying, no, you're wrong because if they get the drugs to this land, that drugs are going to eventually filter into the U.S. It's like saying, it's akin to saying that I am going to Singapore. The U.S. military is going to Singapore and start killing criminals there because eventually those criminals might make their way to the U.S. It is wrong. It is murder.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just so contrary to him having a building, the building of peace named after him. And he's blowing up people in international waters, not U.S. waters, but international waters. And I think Nancy Wall hit the nail on the head. That's his Nobel Prize. That's about as close as he's going to get to a peace prize.
Unless they twist the arms of the Nobel people.
So
what I think they're gonna do.
No, they're not.
Okay.
So those are just a couple of headlines that are important to know, especially that redistricting in Texas. But this is interesting. According to the movie Home Alone, groceries have jumped up in cost more than 250%. Okay, so the year was 1990, and Kevin brought a basket of groceries for $19.83. Now, in his basket, he had milk, bread, juice, some frozen meals, and detergent. His basket would cost you about $72 today. That's a 250 increase on groceries.
Mike just sent me a picture, Neil. How Johnny Depp brought a new flavor to Charlie. And they're pointing out that he copied your hairstyle from today.
Oh, really?
I gotta show you this picture. Yeah, he looks like you.
Yeah.
I'm over here dying. Like, oh,
Nah.
Johnny Depp, come on. I thought he was man up, Johnny Depp. Oh gosh. What else you got this morning?
That's it.
As she sips. That's it. Don't expect any more. So here's something interesting. So JetBlue has this thing. This is out of the blue that I'm saying this, y'all. But JetBlue has this thing where you can get what is that? Monarch status or whatever, right? I forgot what she called it, but you get this status in which you fly basically first class, and you get on the plane for everything for 25 years at the price of just a regular fare, right? But you have to do like 25 trips or whatever by the end of the year. And I know 3 people now who are doing this whirlwind thing where they're flying every day for the next like 20 days to get this status. I gotta update you because I'm having this individual document every city or country they go to. That what they're doing is flying to, like, for instance, flying to like the Bahamas and then flying back like that morning and then that night coming back, or either the next morning and then leaving again, going to California and leaving again, going to, I'm like, who has the time and energy to do this? Well, it turns out I know 3 people who do, and I'm gonna document this for a great feature. I mean, is it that important to them? It's important to get the status because they do travel a lot, but my goodness, Niel, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know that I can do that.
And what is it? What traveling? I'm confused.
It's like you're traveling. You got to do 20. They have to, in order to win this promotion, not win it, but earn this promotion. I'm trying to find that itinerary that I saw. Oh, here it goes, right here. They have to travel 20. They have to take 25 flights, 25 qualifying flights. So this individual, and I'll reveal who that is at another time, is I spoke to her this morning before we went on. She was at JFK. And she's headed to Santo Domingo. Then tomorrow she's back to JFK. Then she'll head to West Palm Beach tomorrow, and then the next day to Boston. Then the next day Chicago. It goes on. Manchester is on here. Cancun is on here. Aruba. It's just, you got to do this in 25 days or whatever.
Okay.
That's too much flying. Would you do that to get this opportunity to have first class flights at the price of regular flights for the next 25 years?
I need a little more clarity.
Well, let's boil it down to this. If American Airlines said to you right now, Niel, if you take 25 qualifying flights before the end of December, now we at December 5th, 25 qualifying flights, you will then qualify for first class at the price of coach economy for the next 25 years. Anytime.
I mean, if you're somebody that likes to travel, then that makes sense for you. You know, I have a girlfriend. If I were to tell her that, she probably would do it because she travels multiple times a year. So if you're somebody who likes to go, then yeah, that makes sense for you.
Yeah,
if you're not somebody that, you know, doesn't travel as much, then yeah, that might not be enticing. But for somebody who travels, you know, 15, 20 times a year, then that makes sense for them. You know, they could go back and forth to Vegas, you know, or, you know, they, you know, so yeah, I probably should tell them. You said it's JetBlue. I'm going to let her know about that.
Yeah, it is a promotion that they're doing right now. Patricia Jackson says it seems like folks feel like this is their sacrifice for high prices. It's just the justification flip. When did the promotion start? Dr. Marilyn said, I believe the promotion started last month. But understand, I think, and I'll find out more details because I'm going to be following this because this is kind of wild to me. But I think the idea was that you had already been flying. So you probably had a few flights under your belt already, not having to do 25 in 25 days. But in this case, in these individuals' case, they basically have 25 in 25 days in order to qualify. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a traveler, you know, it could make sense for you.
I guess so. It just seems, man, that means you're in the air all the time. It's like somebody said, is that a flight attendant? No, it's not a flight attendant. There you
Oh,
go.
there it
Mosaic
is.
had it. Yeah, 25 for 25.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell my homegirl about that. She probably might find that very interesting.
Wow. I'm going to keep tabs on this. This is crazy to me. I can't do it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, so what's the
Um,
black fact for today?
let's get to some black facts. On this date in 1955, the Montgomery bus boycott began, and it was one of the influential developments of the civil rights movement. Among other things, it set the stage for desegregation and public transportation.
Yeah, on this date in 1935, the National Council of Negro Women was established on December 5th by Mary McLeod Bethune in New York City. Now, Bethune brought together leaders from about 29 Black women's organizations to improve the quality of life, opportunities, and rights for African American women, families, and communities. And this was especially during the Depression. But in honor of that, this weekend, the National Council of Negro Women are having their honors gala. And so D Nice will be there, Lindsay Davis. They're honoring Rep Maxine Waters and Joy Reid. And so that should be nice. And of course, right now, the National Council of Negro Women's president and CEO is Reverend Siobhan Arlene Bradley. We've had her on the show, and she continues the legacy of this iconic picture right here. And of course, after Mary McLeod Bethune, beloved mother Dorothy I. Heights took over and was pivotal in helping us get our civil and voting rights.
Those pictures are so powerful, Neil.
Very much
I
so.
mean, man, that we talk about one picture being worth 1,000 words, man. Those pictures are like 1,000,000 words.
Yeah, one of my favorite pictures is that iconic picture of Dorothy Heights with her legs crossed, sitting there talking to Lyndon B. Johnson in the Oval Office. That is just like one of the most iconic pictures to me. And just knowing that she was able to sit under and learn from Mary McLeod Bethune. And Mary McLeod Bethune was somebody to want to stand tall. Wasn't she friends with, whose wife was it? What president? Was it Roosevelt? Roosevelt's wife.
I think you're right. You might be right.
Roosevelt's wife. You know, she was pivotal in
yes, Greer
during
said
his
yes.
administration. And just making sure that there was Black equity at the table. And Roosevelt's wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Mary McLeod Bethune were really good friends. And she really leaned on Mary McLeod Bethune when it came to understanding the plight of Black folks in America. The Black Cabinet. There you go, Greer. Thank you so much.
Yeah, destined forever. We know she said very powerful. Very powerful. The Black press assembled that group, according to Greer. Wow. Yeah. How about
the
that?
Black Cabinet? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that is awesome.
Those pictures it's a lot of history. Awesome. It's a lot of history with that organization, the National Council of Negro Women. Some say they need to update the name, but you know, that's legacy.
Yeah.
And during that
they're
time,
erasing everything. So
and during that time, Negro was it wasn't a bad word. It was what we preferred to be called, like the evolution of Black people in this country.
Yeah, every time I hear that, I always think about that movie. Felicia Rashad was in it, and so was, I think, Esther Rolle. Once Upon a Time When We Were Colored. That's the name of the movie. And Negro College Fund, right? So Negro was the thing.
Yeah, Negro. I mean, on my birth certificate, my mother is listed as Negro.
Is that right?
So that was 1973. So when we think about the evolution of Black folks and where we've come, it wasn't that long ago that we were identified as Negro. And then it was
Chris
Black.
Said hers too.
Yeah, and then it was Black, and then it was African American. You know. So.
Right, exactly. It was Negro, then Black. It was colored for a while.
Colored, yeah. You didn't mind being called color.
Afro-American, then African American. That they done
So-
called us everything but the child of God.
And now we have a capital B on black, you know.
That's right. That's right. Capital B. Exactly.
They're gonna come with the capital W in a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Look at my birth certificate. It might say that too. It might say Negro child. Uh-oh, Mike V starting trouble. He talking about I
Well,
wanted
no,
Kamala
I mean
Harris's
that
birth
wasn't. I
certificate.
mean, Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California. I was born in Oakland, California. So of course,
Oh, you was born in Oakland?
no, I said California. I was born in California. I mean, in LA. She was born in
Oh,
Oakland,
okay.
California, but California is California. You know, birth certificate distribution.
Right, right.
So she probably does have Negro on her birth certificate. If her father, because like I said, it was the parents. So her
Right.
mother might have been identified as Indian, but her father, as a black person, would have been identified as Negro.
Yeah, Dr. Marilyn said both her parents, Negro.
Yeah. And see
Yeah.
the National Advancement of Color People, the NAACP, they have colored
Yep.
in theirs.
Oh, Dr. Marilyn was born in San Francisco. How about that? Speaking of Oakland,
Yeah.
right across the bridge. Okay.
So
All right. Well, look at that. See,
yeah.
who else is having this conversation other than the black
Right.
press?
Right. And so that's why you should definitely make sure that you follow Black Press USA on all social handles. And you can always check out blackpressusa.com. We just kicked off a series yesterday on social media to where we're talking to Black legislators, state legislators all across the country about headlines and issues that are impacting us on a state level. So follow our social media handles so you can hear possibly from your Black state legislator about things that are happening in your community. Let's hear that, Greer. Can we hear it? California. Oh, what's happening in your state?
What had traditionally been an African American congressional seat in a high African American population historical hotspot that's produced some of our greatest leaders, and basically drew that so that it'll be almost impossible to an African American Democrat to win that seat. And again, we're the only state that does not have a budget. They could not come together to agree on Medicaid, but they could come together to agree to steal a district because they want to be in power. Well, what we got to do is get the message out why it's so important for you to vote. With all this redistricting stuff, everything is based on historical performance. What people have got to do that they did this year is vote with their pocketbooks. And what's clear is this is a class battle. Race is part of it. I think Don Davis is a great example because he just said, look, we can't stomach these cuts in a rural, poor African-American area. We need this federal money in it for us to be able to move forward and make sure people stay healthy, educated, have economic opportunity. And that's what's happening all over the country. Everything ends and begins in your state legislature. For instance, in North Carolina, we've got the most powerful state legislature literally in the country. We control who's going to Congress, control whether you're going to get fair representation at the federal level at all. If Congress decides that a president doesn't get to push forward her or his agenda, it stops cold. Same thing in the state. What we're saying is, what's our best way as a government to give people a chance to have their best lives?
For the latest in Black news, visit Black Press
Really,
USA.
that is so cool. I saw that too. That is cool. I'm looking forward to more of that. That is awesome.
Yeah, and Robert T. Reeves just announced that he is running for re-election. He is the minority leader in North Carolina. And so when we see all of these headlines and we think about who's holding the line, it's leadership like his that's holding the line in the state of North Carolina. And so these conversations are important as we look at Congress pretty much being ineffective right now. As I always say, it's the state and local electeds that are going to be doing the work to preserve what democracy looks like in this country.
Yeah, Mike V is asking Neil for you. I think he's asked about this before. I have not reached out, but he says, please bring on Stephen Bradford for an interview.
Yeah, we've had him on. He came on and talked about reparations, but definitely we'll have him back because I'm pretty sure he has a lot to say. Because that bill, that reparations bill that Newsom finally did sign, was the one that Steve Bradford was like, thank you, but no thank you.
Okay, real quick. Let me say this real quick, y'all. Now, I talked about Neil's hair. It was a compliment, but have you seen Jermaine Jackson? He resurfaced after like 6 years being like underground.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
we seen it. They're the Jacksons are opening
No, I'm
a
saying
museum
that.
for
Did you
Michael.
see
No, but I'm
his hair?
saying, but the interview, I get it, but the interview for a news perspective, the interview was based upon them creating a Michael Jackson museum. And then the headlines trended about, I mean, they've been calling Jermaine Helmet Head. That's what they call him. But from a news perspective, the conversation was about a Michael Jackson museum.
Oh,
And then
God.
they took off about Helmet Head and how he does
Helmet
his
Head.
hair.
Maybe next. Oh, there. Oh my. She said black Lego. Wait a minute. All right, we gotta get out of
And
here.
you know what? Jermaine Jackson can still bag a woman with that helmet. He still catches the lady with that helmet. You know why? Because he's a Jackson.
He's Mr. Smooth. Folks, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. Be safe, whatever you do, and we'll see you on Monday.
Yeah.